We are back on the road again. Today I'm taking you to the IF pop-up to meet some fab designers from the SWANA region. Enjoy. Hello, welcome back to the Fashion App. Today I'm so excited because I am at IF pop-up and I've got Dania here to tell us all about it. Hello.
Hi.
How are you today?
Good, thanks. How are you doing?
I am good. Thanks for inviting me into your space. I feel so honoured that I can come and talk to all your amazing designers and yourself.
I'm so happy that you're here.
It's probably best to start at the beginning. So what is the IF origin story?
So it began with me searching for a community where I felt I could be held and all the parts of me could be seen. And I was connecting more with my Palestinian identity, but not really finding a space where I felt I could be my authentic self and still hold space for my Arabness. At the same time, I was taking a lot of pleasure in just repping brands from the region. It felt like a really fun way to express myself, to showcase my culture, and as a great conversation starter as well. I'd often get stopped in the street, people would ask me where I got X brand from, and it felt like a really empowering way to shift the narrative on the region and to reframe it in a really positive way. So I started to notice there was a gap because a lot of people were interested in these kind of clothes, didn't know where to buy them. So yeah, that's kind of how it all began.
And I feel like you're head to toe right now.
Pretty much,
I've been noticing all the details of your outfit. I'm really like your earrings also.
Thank you. Yeah, these are actually my great-grandma's.
Oh, I love them even more.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, we passed down a lot of clothes in the family, and I either wear brands from the region or upcycled or hand-me-down. So yeah, I always set myself an intention that when I leave the house, I'm wearing at least one Palestinian brand.
I love it, just to put that much thought into your sort of outfit process. I respect it a lot.
Thank you. Yeah, I think when you put meaning into, when you try and weave meaning into your daily choices, it can then makes it so much easier for you to, I guess, just be authentic in every sense of the word, and also help to shift the kind of energy around you. It's felt like such a enjoyable process every day to choose how to support in these small and big ways.
So I want to know, what is the goal for you with these pop-ups? You've been doing it about a year now. What was the aim when you started?
So the aim when I started was, as I mentioned, definitely to build a community, but importantly it was to bridge a connection between the diaspora and Arabs and North Africans in the homeland, because growing up I always felt like there was some disconnect between the two. There was some kind of falsified hierarchy depending on how fluent your Arabic was or how often you visited home and whether you grew up in hardships or with privilege. And actually one of the ways that the occupation in Palestine, but also in the wider region, oppresses and controls us through colonialism and all of these different weapons of oppression is by dividing us, right? Divide and conquer is one of the biggest tricks in the rulebook of the colonial toolkit. So I really felt it was important to bring us all together, to have one kind of unified voice and identity, and to be in conversation with one another. Of course, there's going to be differences and nuances depending on not even which country you're from, but which village or city or neighborhood within, a tiny radius. Like, all of these factors need to be taken into consideration with identity, but creating a way that we can be part of the same conversation I felt was really important. So creating an international community really of creatives who could align on values and intentions was the main goal for where we began.
Oh, it must feel so positive that you've kind of achieved part of your goal, and when you do come together and meet people from all different regions and actually sort of, once you remove that colonial mindset from the conversation and can celebrate the differences, learn all the small nuances and stuff, it must actually feel really great that you're able to educate yourselves in that way and sort of just remove that stuff that's been put there.
Absolutely, yeah. Honestly, it's been super healing to build this community and to find my voice and to find my people. And I always joke with my friends that our launch event in September felt like a coming out party. It felt like I was, because my family were there, who are a bit more traditional and conservative, and all my queer Arab friends were there, and all the diasporas who kind of play with the haram halal ratio. Like, we were all together in one space, and it was such a yeah, such an important moment where all the parts of me could really meet and be held together. So yeah, it's been a healing journey for sure, and brings me so much joy and resilience, especially during these really hard times.
Yeah, it's beautiful. Really beautiful work that you're doing. That's why I was so happy when you agreed to sit down with me, because I just think it's so important. You should be really proud of yourself.
Thanks,
I'm sure you are. In that answer, you did mention the hardships, and obviously you started your pop-up in, I wouldn't say 3000 then, in 2023. Of course, during that year, we had a devastating, I don't even want to I feel like I want to be emotional talking to you about it. There was a devastating escalation in Gaza. How did that change the way or inform the way that you sort of navigated the work? You know, sort of before and after.
Yeah, so I launched a month before the accelerated genocide began, so in September last year. And I think it's important to mention that whilst everything that I do is through the lens of a Palestinian and is in service of the cause, that was always the intention even before October 7th. And I think, whilst I think since October 7th, the world has changed, people have woken up, the narrative has shifted, people are more educated and they understand what's going on a lot more. For most of us who are Palestinian or who are from the region or who have taken, you know, an interest in global politics, this didn't start in October, right? This has been going on for hundreds of years, and the intention was always to hold Palestine at the core of everything that I do. That was why I decided to start my own platform, why I took a trip to Palestine in order to inform that decision. It was always in relationship to Palestine. So yeah, I've learned a lot about kind of how to hold space during this time, and how to respect Palestinians who are struggling, because of course I'm Palestinian, but I'm also wildly privileged, and as being part of the diaspora, I think we have a responsibility to tell the stories of those who are unable to speak in the oppressor's mother tongue, or who don't have access to internet to say their story, or to amplify the voices of those who do. So yeah, it always comes back to Palestine, for sure.
And I think people need to be quite intentional, and that's why I wanted to ask it in that way, that it is an acceleration or an escalation, and things didn't just start, as you said, in 2023. This is a long historical, very painful history behind all of these events. There must have been an immense pressure on you, I feel like, because as you said, a lot of the world realised in 2023 sort of what was going on, and for you this is not news, you know, you've known about this. So I just wanted to ask about your work, because I feel like it must have felt like overnight suddenly people were paying attention to your pop-ups in a different way.
Yeah, that's a really good point. Yeah, I remember when October 7th happened, my initial reaction was just to fall into grief and anger, and yeah, of course, like the first thing I did was to check up on all my relatives and friends who were living in Palestine. And you know, once the escalations and retaliations began, it was a lot to process. And then I remember checking the Instagram account, and I was flooded with messages from people saying how angry and disappointed they were that I hadn't made a public statement, and we hadn't, you know, reacted immediately to kind of notify our community what was happening and what our stance was. And it was at that moment I realized that when you have a brand, you have a responsibility. And especially if you're going to take up space in a Western landscape that excludes your voice, and especially if you're going to make it publicly known that you are Palestinian and that you're repping brands from the region with the intention of shifting a narrative, and that comes with a lot of responsibility. And at that time, I wasn't ready for that. I wasn't prepared. And especially because I didn't have a team or anyone that I was working with, I really fell into the kind of emotions of how I was feeling, and wasn't able to kind of take a more, I wasn't able to respond in the way that actually in retrospect I wish I had. But there's also a fine line, because I similarly don't believe in like party politics. Like I don't believe in, I don't know, like going clubbing for Palestine. Like I believe in like dancing and expressing yourself and releasing emotion for yourself and with your friends and for your community, but not for that to raise funds or for that to raise awareness. Like I think there needs to be a line for me that I place on myself and kind of in my politics. But yeah, I do. There is a responsibility that we hold as a brand to speak up and to make our stance known. But I've also made quite a conscious effort to not use the Instagram account as a way to share imagery or videos that would be traumatic or triggering for the community, because we have a responsibility to educate people who don't know, but Hayab is first and foremost for Arabs, for North Africans, for the community and for allies. And I do hope that we are able to educate people who aren't from the community or aren't from the region or don't have that kind of connection or insight. But that's not our main priority. Our priority
it's not your responsibility.
I guess so, yeah, I guess so. I mean, I think it's an important role that we can play, and I do see fashion and culture as being a really important part of taking back power within a Western landscape and kind of reclaiming our narrative. And yeah, once I kind of have a team and build it out, that is going to be an important part of it. But being just one person, I'm not able to do everything. So focusing on the community is really the priority.
Well, yeah, you're a human, right? And I do think I like that you brought that up about the imagery, because you want to educate and do your part, but not at the expense of the people that you're trying to represent, to re-traumatize. And I think I've noticed that with the media, like words have meanings, and to read something should be enough. You don't have to see these horrific things. And I understand for some people that are completely like in the dark, maybe they need that wake up call, but not all of us do. Yeah, I wanted to discuss that a little bit in terms of your brand, because people throw around the word community a lot. And I think a lot of people, not to just diss anyone, may mean followers, really. I don't think that's you. I think this is a real example of a community, and when there are harder times, you do kind of become a pillar for a lot of people. But on the flip side of that, you are one person and you are a human, and you know, that's maybe a reflection more of the internet age, people wanting instant statements and instant answers, and why haven't you posted? You need time to process and make something informed. But I just thought, to be in your shoes in that moment and sort of everybody's seeing you as responsible for a post must have been difficult.
It was also a good lesson, and it helped to shape what then happened next, because we started with fashion as our focus, but then once the accelerated genocide was taking shape, it didn't feel appropriate to continue to promote fashion during that time. I mean, a lot of the Palestinian and Lebanese brands I was working with who are based out there had shut down business. They weren't able to fulfill orders. They certainly didn't have the headspace to kind of create or to produce. And instead, it felt more necessary to create other forms of education and resistance and culture and community in ways that fed less into the kind of capitalist system, which, you know, we were all learning on a global scale was really affecting and essentially funding the genocide. So we then started to tap into events as our main focus. First of all, with organising kind of teach-ins and workshops and different forms of education and solidarity that were actually targeted at people who didn't know what was going on. So we specifically targeted non-Arabs and non-North Africans based in London who were interested to learn more about what was currently happening. And yeah, I do think that having that responsibility placed on me, it was difficult for sure, but it helped me to realize actually, okay, this thing is growing, and I do have a responsibility as a human, as a Palestinian diaspora, and now as a business owner and someone that's running a platform on a public stage. And yeah, it kind of took things in a bit of a different direction, which I'm really grateful for, because now we span fashion, music, film, activism, food, and yeah, I'm able to connect with creatives from all disciplines and all over the region. So yeah, I feel really, really privileged, and it feels like impactful work.
I'm glad you found a way that you're comfortable with to convey the message that you want to convey. I think that's great that you managed to find a teaching out of that. I noticed when I speak to you, you're a very positive person. Even when I arrived, I feel like you've got a very positive energy. So I'm glad, you found a way that you were comfortable with and got to do some really, as you said, impactful work. And yeah, bridging together fashion, music, all of these things that are kind of already quite linked. You kind of get a fuller scope of the creativity of your community, which is really amazing. So
yeah, we've got such incredible talent in the region, and it's such a privilege to be able to platform them.
I know, I was trying to set up and I was already half shopping. I need to get out there and see all these amazing brands.
Ready.
I will. So, you've said that you choose creativity as resistance. How did you land on this?
That idea was really born out of my trip back to Palestine, back to the homeland, where I spent 3 months before I launched Hyab to connect with creatives in the region and honestly to understand what my role was in the wider structures and how I can use my privileged position to support them. And yeah, I learned so much through that trip. I was really confronted with a lot, and one of my biggest takeaways was definitely the fact that we have a choice to react to any situation, right? Like, watching the hardship that Palestinians endure daily, the psychological warfare, the physical violence, from my super privileged position and upbringing, it was such a shock, and I was just amazed at how the people that I met used love and creativity as their weapon. I was so inspired by that notion, and yeah, someone that I met out there, we were having a coffee and a conversation, and they were telling me that they believe that when you're put in a position of hardship and when you're kind of facing your biggest, darkest demons, it's in that moment that you are challenged and that you have the opportunity to make the harder decision of aligning your choice with your values and your ethics. And yeah, that was quite a long-winded way of saying it, but it's something that's really stuck with me, because no matter who you are or where you come from, you're always going to be faced with challenges, and making the decisions that align with your values, it just shifted everything for me, honestly. And also this kind of love-based approach I was really moved by, and it resonated a lot with me. I think there's always and should be space for anger, of course. Like, that's the natural emotion in response to, what a lot of people have to suffer with daily. But those who choose to hold space for the anger, but then to move past it and lean into hope, lean into love, lean into family, to community, that's really, I think, what fuels my work, but also my kind of who I am as a person.
Well, yeah, I guess it's seeped out into your day-to-day. Even earlier you were talking about, how you choose your outfits each day and stuff. That decision-making process is just probably now prevalent for everything you do.
Yeah, I try and be conscious as much as possible and find meaning in all the little things.
So obviously, this is the Fashion Nap. Where does fashion fall into your activism?
Yeah, I think fashion is such an important medium to use as a kind of weapon of resistance. Even just walking around the streets of London in the last year, seeing everyone wearing their keffiyehs, it's become such an important way to show solidarity and to kind of align yourself with the Palestinian cause. But then even deeper than that, all of the brands that we work with, they're all sustainably produced. They all work with local makers from the region. They support marginalized communities within these countries, and they're all ethically made. So they don't use any child labor or any systems of production that harm the planet. And that sounds like an obvious thing to say, but most of the brands that you buy from the high street don't have that kind of standard of ethical welfare. It's really important for us to educate people on the importance of knowing where you're buying from, who you're buying from, and how things are made. And in the kind of like wider picture, that is a really important part of saving the planet and ending genocides and helping to empower people.
I think there's like a sort of stigma with fashion that it's just like shallow and like all about how you look and very vapid and bitchy. But the more I speak to people, and I knew it anyway, guys, it's meaningful. And I think what you choose to put on is sort of speaking without speaking. And as you said, you spot people in a cafe or across the street, you know something about that person, and it does unite in a way. So I think fashion actually has a really great place in activism. And that's why when I first saw your pop-ups, because a friend of mine actually shows that your pop-ups sometimes flow. So I saw from her Instagram, these kind of events centered around activism, but also fashion. I was like, okay, I need to get down to one of these things. Yeah, I just love any time people are able to use the great medium that is fashion for something bigger. I just think, and it's great for people to hear that and see that it can be that, rather than just like, oh, what's in season? What are we wearing? There is an opportunity there to communicate something different.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I remember when I was first writing the manifesto for HIAB, I said something along the lines of what we choose to wear on our bodies is a walking billboard for the heritage and values close to our hearts. And that's really the power that we have. And I think it helps that I'm not from a fashion background, and I've not really experienced, that kind of world. My little sister Yasmina, she's just started a fashion degree. She's already doing a few roles at London Fashion Week, and she tells me a lot of stories, and I hear all about it. But I think that's another example of an industry that's been built on capitalism and these these themes of oppression ultimately, right? Like the fact that you're expected to do all this unpaid work and you're treated like shit, and it's just another way to assert kind of power and dominance and pit people against each other. And I think it helps when building something where you're not actually from that background or from that industry. You can do it really authentically, align it with values that you align with, and you're not kind of swayed by any of the industry standards.
So I could talk about this all day, but that's what stresses me out, because sometimes you see brands growing and there's all of these articles about their sales are down and this and that, and there's like so much racism in the structure of fashion also. And I always have to remind myself when I see these things, when I see brands getting trashed or designers getting trashed, I'm like, all of these things just started with somebody who wanted to be creative. And that's that is the root of like all of these huge corporations that you see. And then all these extra hands get put in and it becomes something different. But at the root, someone just wanted to be creative and express themselves.
Yeah, so true.
I just wanted to throw in that little bit about fashion, because
Thanks.
I love what you're doing with it. Whether you're from the background or not doesn't matter, neither am I. What is your earliest fashion memory?
I don't have loads of memories as a kid. I've got a really bad memory. I remember at school, I'd always try and make my own little things to stand out. So I went through a phase of like collecting little, the little squeaky duck things that you had in the bar.
Oh, yeah.
So I'd like collect them and turn them into necklaces, and people thought it was cool. So I used to like, give them to friends, and it was like a little thing. Or I remember my granny taught me to knit one year, and I made everyone these like completely hideous scarves for for their birthdays. And I think I went through a lot of different fashion phases, and most of them I'm like super embarrassed by.
They're always the best ones.
Like I remember having like super bright, like, do you remember the skinny jean era? And I had a whole collection of like pink, red, yellow. I'd like paired them with these like pointy silver shoes, like in my kind of indie new wave era.
I know the look.
So all to say that I think I experimented quite a bit and took a while to find myself kind of you know, to find my fashion sense or to find my identity. And it's also, it's always changing as well. Like I love just like playing with it and seeing it really as a creative process.
Yeah, but I hate to break it to you, but you have a fashion background. Like to me, that's a fashion background. It's when you are just drawn to it and you experiment with it and you play with it and you kind of can't put it down. I remember the new rave era well. You've given me some very traumatic flashbacks right now of things that I wore.
I'm like thinking through
things that I wore, all that neon, but you know, I think those are the best ones. I think you can't get anywhere without making some bold mistakes. Not even mistakes, just choices.
Absolutely, yeah.
You have such a great network of talent that shows at your pop-ups. How did you go about sourcing them? Are these just friends, or as your brand has grown, are people, I assume they're reaching out to you?
When I first realised the kind of gap in the market, I began like a 3-month research stint where, it was mainly through Instagram actually that I was able to find and kind of shortlist brands and from the region, and also once you have like a handful, it's then way easier through word of mouth to then meet others. I'm super blessed now that we, you know, on a weekly basis get, you know, brands reaching out to us from different parts of the SWANA region or the diaspora, asking to have a call or a conversation or saying they want to get involved. And even last week we had a brand from Lebanon reach out who's in southern Lebanon. They don't have a digital footprint at all. They're super emerging. They're still figuring out their brand name at the moment actually, but I feel so blessed to be able to have these conversations with creatives even in the early starts of their journey to help support them as much as possible. And build my collection as well.
That's so great that you can also have a hand in nurturing brands. And I guess if somebody has a question maybe that you don't answer, you've got all of these designers that you know that probably you could mentor or connect people together and help these brands grow. So there's even more to choose from and more representation.
Definitely. That's actually been something that it wasn't a conscious decision, but definitely through IAB and through the last year, especially as we've dabbled in many different forms of kind of creative resistance and different mediums, we have connected a lot of brands with, you know, with DJs that they then use for their pop-ups or with with other makers, and they're now collaborating on collections together. And I think it's so important when building a community to really empower each other and to work together and to resist this mindset of competitiveness and scarcity, and instead, really support each other and come together and be a kind of resource to help to empower and to instigate growth.
And you said that wasn't intentional, but that is the byproduct of authentic community building.
Yeah.
So when you do things authentically and that are really true to who you are, all of these amazing things are going to be the ripple effect. So that's when you can see that a brand is really about what they say they're about. So that's sort of like a seal of approval in a way that's like, this isn't just smoke and mirrors or for show. This is like the real deal. I love it. I think it's amazing what you're doing. So happy to have this conversation with you.
Thank you. It's interesting because I remember one of my friends who's a curator, kind of at the beginning, she was like, you're a curator, like you should identify as a curator. I didn't really know because I hadn't described myself as that beforehand, and I knew a lot of creators, my background's in art, that kind of curated exhibitions, and I was trying to find, actually how do I describe what it is that I do? Really my strength, my kind of superpower is in bringing people together. And that's something I've always done, whether it's, you know, having dinner parties at my home or, you know, introducing friends to one another who then become best friends. And I think I have a talent for, bringing people together and also, seeing the potential for creativity to really thrive in a collaboration or between a certain group or like number of people, and that's what curation is at the end of the day. If you want to take it at its kind of core, it's the bringing together of peoples who can create something beautiful together. I like to kind of see myself as playing that role, Yeah, I'm excited to see what will get born out of that in the future.
I love hearing people confidently talk about their skills. It's so like such nice energy to be around. And I think that does happen when you sort of build something for yourself. You get so like, oh, can I call myself that? Because I guess for some reason we don't associate a title with like the actual act. We associate it with the accolades and like the degrees and like that side of things. I get the same way when people say, oh, well, you're a fashion journalist. I'm like, no, I'm not. But then I'm like, well, what am I actually doing right now? I'm sitting here interviewing you, so maybe it's just funny that we get in our head about stuff like that when really we're doing the acts. So from now on, you heard it here first. This is Dania, founder of IEB and curator. Okay, you're a curator. Thanks so much for sitting with me today. I really want to go shopping, so let's go and meet some of your amazing designers and see the event. And I hope you enjoy it. Let's go and enjoy the fruits of your labour.
Thanks so much, Charlie. Great to chat with you.
My name is Therese Rafoul. I'm a designer, a Lebanese designer. So I graduated from Central St. Martin's in 2023. And after my graduate collection, I decided to make some pieces that are more ready to wear, more wearable. My brand is based on showing a side of Arab womanhood that you don't really see in the press or in the media. And usually you have either very demure or it goes into like a belly dancing situation. So these are inspired by the women that I know, the women from back home that are empowered, strong, and that bite back. And that's the brand.
I love your outfit. Because you talk me through your looks today, please.
So this is one of my tops. It was actually the cover of my portfolio from university, which I turned into a top. And it says, "Show me your teeth," which is the name of my final collection. And yeah, it's an Arabic calligraphy, and I'm wearing it on top of a Uniqlo dress.
Hello, I'm Dania from Paris. I'm the owner of Isis Dunia brand. We are a brand focused on sustainability and representation. I started my brand 6 years ago, and here we are.
Hello, what's your name?
I'm Yasmina.
So you are representing another brand today. Can you tell us a bit about it? Because I found it extremely interesting.
I'm representing Hypebeast, which is a streetwear brand that plays off already emerging and established designers like Prada, and they use it to make iconic imagery and visuals to speak about diaspora and marginalized communities. So they do have a Palestine collection. These tops are inspired by Ralph Lauren. We have Prada, and they're all to raise awareness and solidarity for the people of Palestine.
Can I hear a little bit about your outfit? Because you actually look very fab.
I'm wearing a keffiyeh around my waist. I'm wearing one of the FC Palestina tops that we actually are selling here today. And then I just thrifted this knitted cardigan over and I layered it on top.
What's your name?
Hi, my name is Camelia and I'm the founder of Chez Nous. So Chez Nous is a Paris-based brand that blends my North African heritage with contemporary wear. The brand is genderless and size inclusive as well. It goes from double XS to triple XL, and it's all ethically made between Tunisia and France. I was born in France and my roots are from Tunisia, so I really wanted to mix those two words and celebrate the multiculturality.
I also had a really great chat with Jasmine, who is the founder of a brand called Azirat. She was telling me that she was born in Jordan and grew up in Greece, and her whole design ethos is about bridging the gap between the East and the West. She makes these really fab blinged out tracksuits. I was really taken by her branding once I got home and started stalking all her socials. The photo shoots that she's been doing for her brand and just overall all the visuals that she's created just tie all of the clothes together so well and really help you understand her viewpoint and her perspective. And just the overall look of everything is so my speed. It made me fall in love with the clothes 10 times more than I already did when I saw them in person. So for that, I will also throw in that as well as being a talented designer, Jasmine is also a really great storyteller. I also spoke to an amazing woman, and I'm so sorry I didn't catch her name. It was after I'd packed up all my equipment, so I didn't get a chance to interview her, but she was showing me the brand Lamsa, which is an amazing, amazing project. So all of these stunning and fabulous and colourful, bold handbags are made in the Bekaa Valley in Lebanon. by Lebanese and Syrian artisans who are experiencing refugeehood, and the mission is dignity in displacement. What I found really interesting that she was telling me was just about the dialogue between herself and the artisans, because obviously these women are really talented and have this incredible skill set, but her designs are like not traditional, and how far the artisans want to be creatively pushed in terms of using the skills that they've honed in completely new ways. Because obviously the context is like she's a young designer, right, with a completely different perspective on fashion and visuals, but it comes together so beautifully. Some of the bags, like I was looking at them on the website and I'm like, wow, this is such a cute design. And then I click on it and each one has like the story explained. And some of them have really touching meanings that just change how you view the designs. So I was really blown away when I learned about Lamsa. And I actually regret not buying a bag. There was just so many and I liked them all and I was on my way out. But I took her card. So I'm definitely going to pick one of these up in the future. So that was my experience at the IF pop-up. I will definitely be going to all the future ones because as you can see, there is so much talent and I didn't even interview every single designer. So you can only imagine how many more fab pieces you can find there. I hope you enjoyed that conversation with Dania. She is such an intelligent, articulate, incredible person and I'm so honoured I got to sit down with her. Like, subscribe, all the rest of it. See you next week. Bye.